Hello, my YouTube family. This is the OG Crypto New Jack coming at you with some juicy news today. But before I begin, let me say I am not a financial advisor. Anything you see or hear in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice. Remember to do your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making investment decisions. Okay, we're going to start looking at the total crypto market cap, and it's at $1.11 trillion. It's up 2.6%. Coming in at number one is Bitcoin at 26,457. Number two, Ethereum at 1,728. And our beloved XRP is number six at 48 cents. Taking a look at crypto bubbles, it looks like the top gainer is Hex at 17.2%. Looks like it's mostly green today. And the Fear and Greed Index is neutral at 47. We're going to start the day with Brad Garlinghouse, who put out his own personal message. He writes, trying something new. Some thoughts for me on the events, specifically the release of the Hinman documents of this week. For me, this had all a personal bent to it, and it felt like it warranted some personal comments. So I'm going to let it play and let the man speak for himself.
Hi, I'm Brad Garlinghouse. As many of you know, I don't often make videos like this, but then again, not every week has been like this one. A few days ago, after 2 years, 7 court orders, and over $100 million in legal bills, the Hinman speech documents, including internal SEC emails and comments leading up to this now infamous 2018 speech, they've finally been unsealed. Hinman's speech created new factors to determine if a token becomes sufficiently decentralized to no longer be considered a security. At best, these documents show that senior officials at the SEC couldn't agree on the law and told Bill Hinman directly he would confuse the public even more about the rules for crypto. At worst, they show that Hinman deliberately ignored the law, and he tried to create new laws, something only Congress can do. And while he was a public servant, Hinman received millions of dollars of payments from his law firm, which was part of an alliance with others that had a vested interest in this speech. This speech isn't about any one token or any one blockchain. This is about showing the extent to which the SEC has relentlessly pursued enforcement actions against crypto players while professing fake open arms and calls to come in and register, all the while lying about their so-called guidance. As some of you may know, Ripple spent years proactively engaging with the SEC. I personally met with Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman, with no lawyer present. Why would I need a lawyer if we were all coming together in good faith? We answered every question they had, and not once did they suggest to me that XRP was a security. We were fully transparent, not knowing they would then use this information against us. The SEC hit us with a surprise Wells notice, saying they were considering suing us for breaking securities laws, and still refused to provide specifics. To those that have recently been hit with their own Wells notices and lawsuits, this likely sounds all too familiar. When the lawsuit did drop against us, days before Christmas, a very Grinch-like touch, they made it personal. They sued Chris Larson and they sued myself, alleging we should have known all along that XRP was a security. You can now see plain as day, they couldn't even agree amongst themselves. And to me, it still seems like they can't. What we saw play out in our case is exactly what's still happening. The SEC is looking to kill crypto innovation in the United States, and its current chair, an unelected bureaucrat I might add, is weaponizing the lack of regulatory clarity to exert jurisdiction over the entire crypto space. This is the definition of putting politics over people. It's the pursuit of power over sound policy. The SEC tried to bully us into acquiescing. Thankfully, we have had the resources to fight back. And now we can all see what they fought so hard to hide. They knowingly created confusion about the rules, and they used that confusion to regulate through enforcement. That's bad faith, plain and simple. Ultimately, as our lawsuit comes to a close, for so many others, it's just starting. The fight for clarity has to continue. I just want to conclude by saying to my colleagues here at Ripple, to my family, my friends, everyone who has supported us over the past 2.5 years, and certainly to the whole of the XRP army, a very heartfelt and a very genuine thank you for that support.
Well, those are really great personal comments from Brad Garlinghouse. And we thank you, sir. And you are the consummate professional. And if anybody who ever owned a company and they wanted a CEO, that's the kind of person who you want to run your company. He is the consummate professional. Okay, moving on. We have Cowboy Crypto, who responded to that and said, exactly. Brad also made sure to emphasize in his video today, he met with the SEC numerous times and was never told XRP was your security. How do you go almost a decade without saying anything, then drop a suit? That is bad faith, and I 100% agree. And here is shout out to XRP Crypto Wolf. He put this thing out there. An SEC veteran says the Ripple case to be resolved within days. The article he's talking about is this one here. I'm just going to read the top paragraph. The long-standing legal battle between Ripple Labs and the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, is set to reach a decisive point in the coming days, according to an industry veteran. Mark Fagel, a former attorney who served as the SEC's San Francisco regional director, shared his insights on the case, suggesting that a ruling could be imminent. So that is just his opinion. He used to work in the SEC, so we'll give him a little credibility for what he's saying. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Ashley Prosper, who has been an absolute beast in the XRP army. I don't know how she does it, but thank God for her and Johnny Dean. She puts out an SEC job posting. We are an enterprising criminal racket whose task is to slow down or crush startup companies that would challenge the status quo and take market share from the incumbents. We are looking for a talented young individual with the ability to disregard moral integrity, ignore ethical violations, and lie under oath. If that sounds like you, contact Senator Warren. We'll make sure your application reaches our desk. And that is obviously a parody, but she's making a point, and I 100% agree with her. But I also had to chime in. I couldn't help myself. I also responded. I put down, you forgot that you must also, at will, be able to make Supreme Court decisions and set precedents like the Hinman test. I couldn't help myself. I had to add that. Carrying on, we have here Jeremy Hogan, who is responding to Rep Torres's comments. First, I'll go over Rep Torres, where he writes, as I pointed out during the Financial Services Committee Dems hearing this week, members of Congress are elected by and accountable to the American people, which should be the ones deciding the future of regulating digital assets and other emerging technologies like cryptocurrency, not unelected bureaucrats. I 100% agree with that statement. And I believe Dems and reps majority would agree with that statement. And Jeremy Hogan responded to that and said, the U.S. Supreme Court agrees with you. And he says to see West Virginia versus the EPA on the major questions doctrine. Here's what he put down. And we all can agree on that, I believe. This is Mr. Hubert, who puts out the Federal Trade Commission acts, bans unfair methods of competition and unfair or deceptive acts or practices. The Supreme Court has said that all violations of the Sherman Act also violate the FTC Act. The Sherman Act imposes up to $100 million in penalties and 10 years in prison. Hopefully we can mete that out to the ones who deserve it. I'm sticking with Mr. Hubert. He writes, hey, you Ripple guys. And this is their response to what Stuart Alderati wrote. Actually, I read that first. Stuart Alderati said, an investigation must be conducted to understand what or who influenced Hinman, why conflicts, or at the very least, appearances of conflicts, were ignored, and why the SEC touted the speech knowing that it would create greater confusion. So he responded to that and he said, hey, you Ripple guys, Brad Garlinghouse, Joel Katz, I'm just curious, will you actually do something to address this issue besides asking for an investigation on Twitter? And lo and behold, Brad Garlinghouse responded with a yes. So I am looking forward to that. Okay, moving on. We have here a statement from John E. Dean, and this is in regards to John Reed Stark. Michael Marcus put out, John Reed Stark just agreed Bill Hinman should be investigated. And this is big, folks, because John Reed Stark is a person who was 100% pro SEC all the way. He didn't see them losing any case. And he had to capitulate after the Hinman emails came out. I'm sure he was surprised, and he's probably a man of integrity. And John Dean writes, to his credit, John Reed Stark indicated this over a year ago. John and I had strong disagreements related to crypto, but he is a true believer in the SEC as an institution. Anyone who believes in the integrity of the SEC as an agency should support an investigation. And after the Bill Hinman emails came out, he actually does support an investigation. As much as he is a believer for the SEC, he is a bigger believer, from what it appears to me, for the rule of law. And he actually agrees that Bill Hinman should be investigated. And there is no doubt about that. Here is the digital asset investor, shout out to DAI. He writes, I don't think we're fighting against the SEC over the crypto and the future of finance. I think we are fighting for America against China and those compromised by it. And after seeing those Hinman emails and all the shenanigans with the ETH free pass, I 100% agree with that. Shout out here to Mark Phillips. His take is, number one, the Ripple case is at an inflection point. Expect big news soon. Number two, the attempt to create an ETH monopoly has been exposed with evidence of the SEC, JPM, consensus, and the CCP collusion. Looks like a national security issue. Congress must get involved. And with what we just went over before, again, 100% agree with that. And here we have, shout out to Riz. We are going to end it here with Stuart Alderati's take on what just occurred recently. Maybe let it play.
Is this what you expected to uncover in these documents?
Yeah, now we have seen, we got access to these documents last year, and the judge has seen them. The new news here is the judge, on her 7th court order relating to these documents, said that the public deserves to see these documents. But yes, this corroborates a number of very important, relevant things, or things that are relevant to our case. One, that when the law is faithfully applied, when you faithfully apply the statute in the famous 1946 Supreme Court case known as Howey, the SEC has no case. Two, it confirms that the SEC fostered regulatory confusion in the marketplace. They knew the marketplace was confused, and they took steps to deliberately aggravate that confusion. And I think that goes to what's known as the fair notice defense, that folks of ordinary intelligence did not have fair notice about how the SEC was going to apply what they believed to be the law to this industry. And lastly, we shouldn't forget that in addition to suing Ripple, the SEC in December 2020, I think as a last-ditch effort to bring maximum leverage on the company, sued our founder and our CEO personally, alleging that they were reckless in allowing Ripple to distribute the digital asset XRP in the way they did. And to establish recklessness, you have to prove that the individual either knew or recklessly disregarded what the law was. And we've now confirmed that that is an outrageous allegation, because at best, the SEC were debating internally what the law was. At worst, they knew what the law was, and they distorted the law to create this confusion in the marketplace.
And there you have it, folks. You have two powerful statements by both Brad Garlinghouse and Stuart Alderati in regards to the Hammond emails. I see nothing but bright skies for Ripple in this case. I just can't wait for it to end in their favor, because I cannot see it ending in any other way. But okay, fam, that's going to do it for today's video. If you found this video to be helpful, would you please smash a like and subscribe? I would really appreciate it, and it doesn't cost you anything. Thank you much in advance. And in the words of Snoop Dogg, keep your mind on your money and your money on your mind. Peace out, fam.